in November 1895. I wanted to say 1985, but it's 1895.
Same dates.
Same thing, same thing. Wilhelm Röntgen took a picture of his wife Bertha's hand.
Have
you seen this photo? Can you see it?
If you hold it still. Oh, yeah. Okay. It's not a normal photo because unless her skin is gone, that's a photo of bones and a wedding ring.
It is a photo of bones. So 6 days later, it appeared in his new and shiny paper called On a New Kind of Rays. So it's the first scientific paper to describe X-rays.
Cool. I get it.
The English translation of his paper turned up in the January 1896 edition of Nature. So, he got a Nature paper.
Oh, that's nice.
It outlines his experiment. So it involved firing electricity through a vacuum tube. The tube was covered in black cardboard, which blocked the light that came out of it. But even though it was covered, you noticed there was
it's nice and primary school project as well.
Isn't it?
Like get some black cardboard and some sellotape on one end and you sticky tape it down and then you put some of those pipe cleaners all around it that make a nice little caterpillar.
Yeah, and then you see if it protects an egg when you drop it from the top of the building or something, isn't it? So he had it covered in black cardboard, and what he found was it blocked the light. But even when the tube was covered, he noticed there was a fluorescent screen that was more than a meter away that would glow.
Okay.
Even after he physically covered the thing that was irradiating. And so he went, this is pretty weird, and he called these mysterious rays X-rays.
Because he's a branding genius.
He's a fucking branding god because we never change it. And obviously he called it X because it was unknown. Yeah. So he's pretty much invented.
/ cool. Like he wanted to make them cool. So he said, these are X-rays. Like he didn't call them the boring rays.
We're prejudiced because it's our generation, man. It's no one's fault. Anyway, he continued experimenting and he tried to block these rays with everything he could find. So aluminium didn't work. The walls of his lab didn't work. Copper didn't work. But then finally he realized lead would. Okay. Lead would block the rays. And when he put the lead up, he could see the flesh glowing around his bones. So he basically went, holy shit, there's something going on here. On the fluorescent screen, you could see the flesh glowing and his bones were visible.
Hang on, wait. Without like a photographic thing or anything like that. But he can see the flesh.
On the screen. No, on this fluorescent screen. Yeah. No, not just in space. Fuck, that'd be cool.
All right.
That'd be super cool. That would make all those naughty glasses that you could buy in comic books when I was a kid real. So the researcher, Arne Hessenbruch, doesn't matter who they are, I'm just giving them due credit. They said the ability of the new rays to image the bones within a living hand really interested the general public for about 6 months.
What? Only 6 months? Look, I get we move on, but...
it's an exciting time, the turn of the 19th going into the 20th. So there were newspapers publishing long chats about how X-rays worked, etc., and what the consequences could be, as you'd expect. But there are also heaps of cartoons and plays about X-rays, which I think is gold. And they apparently were particularly obsessed with the idea that you could see through people's clothes.
Thanks, humanity. Like, as soon as there's a new invention, can we use this to perv? Like,
I can see tits with it. Like, that's pretty much that.
Like, why not just be a nice person and ask the other person out on a date first, and then maybe, you might get to a place where you can see through their clothes anyway.
May I see one of them?
Yeah.
I think that's very reasonable. I bought you dinner. May I see one, please?
It's like the French Revolutionary posters. They always have the one breast out.
Je suis un boob.
Probably.
That's what they called themselves. It was the password. That's how you got in. No, that's true. So as the researcher Hessenbrook put it, this was understandably quite titillating to the general public.
No doubt.
Yes. But within a few months, X-rays were already being used by battlefield doctors, which is pretty impressive. Because before the X-ray, there was no way to tell precisely what was going on inside the body. So, where's the bone broken? Where's the bullet if it's still in there? Piece of shrapnel.
Yeah.
You just kind of had to rummage around. So that's pretty uncool.
Just get general poking into the battle wounds. Is it all right?
I know.
Is it all right if I poke it in here? Does it hurt if I sort of get 4 fingers in, then squeeze it around?
Tell me if you feel any resistance. Just go. Second knuckle, doc.
My hand's all flappy.
Oh, fuck. It sounds horrifying. I'll tell this story another day.
You're not loving the idea of battlefield first aid back in, turn of the 20th century or ever?
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty impressive. They weren't exactly running around with them on their backpacks, but the idea had begun to take on very quickly. So the history books are full of references to Röntgen and famous types who took the lead, but a lot less is made of the people who dedicated their lives and in some instances died in the pioneering of modern X-ray technology.
Welcome to the Wholesome Show, the science podcast you can see through.
Right through.
For people who sit up the back of the classroom.
In which we ask, and indeed demand to know the answers to the pointless and horrible questions, so you do not have to find out for yourself.
I'm Will Grant.
I'm Dr. Roderick Griffin Lamberts, and I am a big fan of X-rays, I have to say, and all medical imaging technologies.
I love it. I love looking inside the body. It's the best.
Oh no, you mean actually?
No, inside the body. Yeah. I love it. I love it. There was a time when a doctor was cutting a mole off me, and it was on my arm, and I was like, "That is so cool. Can I watch while you cut it open? Can I have a little turn?" Like it was anaesthetized, but he didn't let me. I don't know.
Let you play with your own body.
I don't know if that's a thing that doctors are allowed to do. Have a turn.
They don't own your body, man.
No, they don't.
They've transgressed.
The Wholesome Show is brought to you by the Australian National Centre for the Public Awareness of Science.
And what people are wearing under their clothes without their knowledge.
Well, we're all wearing under our clothes with our knowledge and without our knowledge.
No, not everyone.
It's
I don't know.
It's our naked
And as I
bodies.
never know myself, always jean shorts.
For all of your science communication needs, from undergrad to PhD.
Really. All of them. All of them.
Yeah.
So, William, you're going to get comfy at the back of the class today?
I'm totally comfy.
You didn't bring any beer, though. You're crazy. I'd love to send you some, but I can't.
Through the miracle of the internet. Now, look, there will be faxable beer soon.
It'll be printable, won't it?
I don't know.
Print me a beer. My food printer's run out of fat. I was just watching a show that was big on that. They print these elaborate-looking meals, and then someone takes a bite and goes, I think your fat cartridge is empty. I'm thinking, ooh, what's a steak that doesn't have any fat in it taste like?
I think we're a long way away from that. I get
months.
3D printing some things, but food, it's maybe a little complicated.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Anyway, I'm up at the back of the class. Tell me about some of these other people.
So as I say, there've been multiple. There are many people who've been involved in the invention and the testing, etc. And there are multiple horror stories.
Horror stories?
Oh, the things that people went through. It's delightful. So of course I'm going to tell you some.
Cool.
Because I have to say I really enjoyed myself reading this stuff.
Feeling sorry, you mean you didn't enjoy?
I enjoyed.
Felt really sorry for those pioneers of science.
Schadenfreude ragegasm?
Not a word.
It's fair to say it is now. It's fair to say I'm very happy that they did it and I didn't.
Okay, good.
And for example, so literally 2 weeks after Röntgen first announced these rays existed and how it happened, a guy called Friedrich Otto Walkhoff.
He's from what country?
He's definitely Italian.
Oh, okay.
He took the first dental radiograph.
Nice.
Yeah, which sounds quite reasonable. Again, dental radiography.
I get it.
I'm into.
He's thinking, okay, well, so it stops in bones. Let's check the other hard things in your body.
Yep.
Stop it. Let's do your teeth. So
I meant teeth too. I don't know what you're talking about.
Indeed.
For once, I missed the entendre.
Oh, how is that possible? I didn't think you could miss entendres.
I thought I was programmed to find them even if I didn't realize, but it took me a moment. So he took an ordinary photographic glass plate, wrapped it in a rubber dam, like a bit of rubber. He held it in his mouth between his teeth and tongue and then lay on the floor for a 25-minute exposure.
I don't know. It's got to be on the floor. Is this fetal position? He's got to curl up on the floor? Or
surely after minute 12, you're pretty much...
So he's got to stay dead still for this time?
I assume so. I mean, you still do. So why the hell it would have been any better 120 years ago?
Yeah, but he's 25 minutes. So 25 minutes of dead still is a lot.
Can you imagine being told by an X-ray person, okay, this is going to take 25 minutes. Fuck off. Like, I'm out of here. There's something wrong with you and your machine. I'm gone. He described the experience as torture.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just because he needed to move a lot like me. He can't handle the lying still. There was something beyond
ADHD. The dental X-ray was torture. I think basically everything involved. I don't know that you can actually feel the effects until you've been under for a bit longer than that.
I would have thought
physically feel the rays.
Yeah.
Later he made other, they call them extra oral pictures. So around the mouth, beyond the mouth.
Or he didn't mean just more. Did he mean extra as in more?
Yeah, multiple.
Okay.
No, beyond, like
outside
of the mouth, from outside the noggin.
Yeah, okay.
And around the noggin. And these pictures had exposure times of 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Not only of him, but of other people. And he noticed a loss of hair on the side of the head of some of the patients he'd been irradiating.
Okay.
Fuck, man.
And
right,
at this point,
straight
we
away.
kept going?
Yeah. But, well, as it goes on, but there was no mention of blisters on the skin. So there was assumptions made that it was less than about 300 rads, the dose.
Yeah, okay.
Well, how much is that, you ask?
Well, I kind of do. I just thought it was as a number. Like you can.
So, roughly speaking, under 100 rads will probably produce no real clear immediate symptoms, but there might be some changes in your blood that are detectable. 100 to 200 delivered to the entire body in less than a day could cause acute radiation syndrome, but not usually fatal.
Okay, we're jumping up pretty quickly.
This is for a whole day, though, not 100 to 200 for a moment, but for a whole day.
Yeah.
200 to 1,000, I know it's a big category, but I had to look this up quickly. 200 to 1,000 delivered in a few hours will cause serious illness, and as it was put here on good old Wikipedia, with a poor outlook at the upper end of the range.
No doubt.
Yeah. And whole body doses of 1,000 are pretty much invariably fatal.
Okay, all right.
This is all at once, over a sustained period, not like if you get 100 today and then 100 next week. The cumulative effects aren't the same. But anyway, so they're saying less than 300 rads, maybe, they're guessing. That led to hair loss, but no blisters upside.
Sure.
It's a good thing. 1896, there was a magazine or journal called Electrical Review. I'm sure you know it. You still read it today. Yeah?
Every day.
It reported that a Dr. H.D. Hawkes gave a demonstration with a powerful X-ray unit somewhere in New York or near New York. After 4 days, he noticed a drying of his skin, which he ignored.
What's he doing with the demo? We don't know what the demonstration is?
No, but I think it involved quite a bit of exposure.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
And quite a bit is a technical term for...
Yeah, I get it.
Far more than one should. So drying of the skin, which he ignored. His hand began to swell and gave the appearance of a deep skin burn. Looking good so far.
Mm-hmm.
After 2 weeks, the skin came off his hand.
Sloughed off.
Yeah. Or slough is a word that came up a lot. A lot.
I don't want to be reading a lot about sloughing. Is it even sloughing? I've only ever read it. I don't think I've ever pronounced it out loud.
It could be slow, but it is spelt sloughed.
Yeah, like a sleigh, but it's a slough.
Yeah, a sleigh, but far less fun and not as much.
But yeah, so am I technically right here in terms of the skin coming off? It's all of the skin, like a degloving incident?
Yeah, it tends to come off a fair bit and in sheets. His knuckles became really sore, fingernail growth stopped, and the hair on the skin exposed to the X-rays all fell out.
Okay.
His eyes went bloodshot.
Okay.
And his vision became impaired. His chest was also burnt, so he really gave himself a serve. His physician treated this as a case of dermatitis.
Okay, some rash cream. Well,
Yeah,
I get that they didn't
ointment.
understand a lot about radiation at the time, so...
Literally fuck all. I think very few people had much of an inkling whatsoever, and there's no reason to think that doctors would have been on top of it, because why would they be? Medical isotopes weren't a big thing, I think, in 1896. Hawkes decided he would protect his hands with petroleum jelly, then gloves, and finally by covering them with tinfoil.
Didn't he read the paper that said it was lead? It was lead that stops it?
Yeah, I don't think he did.
Like, I think Roentgen worked that out after a little while.
But this was more to protect his damaged hand now that it was already fucked.
Afterwards.
Yeah, it's kind of
okay.
like to protect it. But I love it. And I'm going to wrap it in foil.
Sure.
But I don't think, wow. So they say within about 6 weeks.
It looks like a cool, like, Winter Soldier glove. You get this. Why is your hand in tinfoil? I must now, but after the radiation accident.
Yes, it's becoming superpowered, but it takes time, embryonically so. Within about 6 weeks, it says he was partially recovered and was making japes about his injuries.
Oh, well, who doesn't?
And this issue of Electrical Review ended with a call out to other readers who may have had similar experiences with X-rays.
Who else is doing
Tell
this
us your stories.
Tell us it all.
Send us a telegram.
Oh, the early days of citizen science when everyone's just having a go.
Excuse me. I don't think it's that different now in many ways, but less dangerous because, we're safety conscious. Same year, December of 96, a story from a Dr. Stickney. Dr. Stickney is describing Mrs. Q. Mrs. Q complained of abdominal pain.
This is a made-up story, Dr. Stickney and Mrs. Q.
But what a mystery novel by Agatha Christie's aunt. Dr. Stickney and Mrs. Q, mystery series, episode 11. Mrs. Q complains of abdominal pain. Radiograph was taken of her abdominal area. The X-rays were particularly focused over the liver because, of course, you would. There were 3 exposures. So she had 3 shots, one 20 minutes, one 30 minutes, and one 35 minutes. 2 days later, she got burns over the region, and the condition worsened until the skin slowed off. Like, wow, 30 minutes.
I don't know. But what were they looking for in the last session that they didn't get in the 30 minutes before or the 25 minutes before that?
Well, other deeper diagnosis.
Yeah,
deeper diagnosis. I don't know, but I figure often the situation would have been, if some of this is good, more of it must be better.
Yeah, okay.
Don't you reckon? The more we look, the more shit we'll find that we probably can't do anything about anyway because we're not that far from leeches and drinking opium. Not against opium. Another one, William Levi. He'd been shot in the head by a bank robber who had escaped in a bank he was hanging out in 10 years earlier.
Okay.
So back in 1886. The bullet went into his skull just above his left ear, and it presumed to have headed towards the back of his head.
Oh, but this is a cool mystery, though. Like, I get it. He wants to know, is the bullet still in there? Doctors want to know. Everyone wants to find the bullet.
Well,
Whereabouts
Dr.
is it?
Stickney and Mrs. Q to find out, but they weren't involved in
The
this
mystery of the missing bullet.
Yeah, we know it's in his head, or we're pretty confident somewhere in the
It
old
might have
fellow's
fallen
body.
out in his sleep. Like it sort of wiggled his way out and it was on the pillow. And then he cleaned his bed and it's gone.
What was it? There's a clattering noise, dear, when you rolled over during the night and you seem to be bleeding a little. That'd be that bullet from a decade ago, love. He'd heard about X-rays, so he decided he wanted to use the X-ray to find the bullet so they could get it out. Now, I don't know if the bullet was causing him trouble. Maybe he's just like, maybe having a bullet in my head's a bit bad.
I kind of look. In fairness, I would say if it's been in there a decade, it's one of those things. I'm leaving it in there. It's just that's part of me now, and wiggling it out again. Maybe it's doing good. Or
I agree. Like, leave it alone. It's in your fucking brain, like, or at least in your noggin, which is, I'm told, I'm no medical scientist, very close to your brain.
Indeed. So that's part of you now. So I wouldn't be getting that out, but I wouldn't mind knowing exactly where it is. That'd be interesting.
Sure, depending on what you have to go through. So he heard about X-rays, and so he went to the physics lab of the University of Minnesota and spoke to Professor Jones, not Dr. Jones, Professor Jones. The professor said, look, I don't think it's a good idea to be exposed to this stuff. It might not be good for you. But Levi said, no, bugger this. I want you to do it. So in 1896, so 10 years later, he had it done. They did exposures with a tube over his forehead, in front of his open mouth, and behind his right ear.
Okay.
He sat through the exposures from 8 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night.
Wow. That's a lot of sitting. That's a lot of sitting.
14 hours.
Wow. That's such a long time. Paint my portrait while you're at it. Like, you might as well.
Do whatever you want. Like, replace my body part. So 14 hours, off and on, probably more on than off. He was being bathed in this delicious irradiation. Within 24 hours, his entire head was blistered. Within a few days, his head was an angry sore and his lips were swollen, cracked, and bleeding.
Well, look, this professor said that he was a little bit worried that it might be a little bit dangerous. He didn't want to do some sort of moderation. You know,
let's do it for more than...
Let's start with a minute.
Yep.
Who goes in? Let's start with 14 hours.
15 on one part of the noggin or something, you know, but no. So yeah, his right ear had doubled in size and the hair on the right side of his head had completely fallen out. 24 hours.
His right ear had doubled in size.
Yeah, 24 fucking hours. I mean, seriously, he's been nuked. Jones concluded that the one feature that was good about this for the patient was that they really got a good picture of the bullet. So they knew exactly where it was.
No doubt.
An inch beneath the skull, under the occipital protuberance. So they found the bullet. There's no story about whether they took it out.
Look, I can understand he didn't feel overly favourably disposed to the medical establishment at that point, or having more X-rays or anything near his head. He's probably feeling tender. So,
but can you imagine, like, within 24 hours, your head swells like a pumpkin, your ears are cracking and your lips are cracking and bleeding, the hair on one side of your head falls out.
But maybe he really wanted to know where the bullet was. He was really keen to know,
and he found out. So it was all worth it. Look, and there are so many of these stories. I mean, I had to stop myself. I was just reading lists upon lists of these stories. It's fantastic.
I totally understand. This is like the Marie Curie thing. When you're discovering radiation, as maybe Röntgen, I get it. When you're discovering things, you might go, oh, that's a little bit ouchy if you put it in your mouth. Or, that's a little bit ouchy if you sit by it for a long time. I don't understand people that are like the 10th or 11th or 12th or 50th person to go, you know what, let's just stay here for ages.
Do it again. Maybe it'll be different this time. Maybe I'm the 1 in 50 who's immune to this or gets superpowers.
I just,
It's fucked up. And I mean, look, I get it. They didn't know, and it's easy for us future people to laugh at the past people. Blah, 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 blah.
What I'm laughing at is I'm not laughing at Ronjan. I'm not laughing at the first people for these things to happen to.
No.
What I'm laughing at is why don't people just listen to what other people might have gone through here? Okay, maybe it was hard to get the news out, and everyone was still just playing with the magic rocks. I get it.
Well, to be fair, the internet was definitely in its infancy back then.
There were. He had a scientific paper in Nature, so I'm assuming everyone who could get the X-ray rocks might have been able to read a little bit of sciencey news. Professor, what's his name?
The X-ray rocks. I'm looking for some X-ray rocks. I hear it's done with stoneware. That's all I know.
Yeah,
and black cardboard. But no, this is great. Lots of stories about people getting maimed and fucked up. Like so many stories.
And you stopped. Are you saying you stopped reading the maimings?
No, I actually read about 10 more than I told you. There are so many, but I thought this could just. I don't want to be gratuitous, you know me. Subtlety is like my middle name.
It's really not.
Yeah. So I thought, let's look at who had the honor of being the first person who died essentially from X-rays. Let's go for that.
That's really nice of you.
Yeah, I thought let's credit where credit's due, because also I'd never heard of the guy. I bet you haven't heard of the guy.
Can I guess his name?
Yes.
Seymour Seville.
Holy shit, that is freaky.
Yeah, I know, right? Is it not?
Because it's Seymour. No, it's not.
Oh.
Clarence Madison Daly.
Okay, Clarence and Seymour are close. Like
this is what I'm saying. I mean, that is actually. I'm going to give you 15 points.
There, I win the quiz.
Useless points, but they're all yours. You can cash them in.
So what happened to Clarence?
He was born in New Jersey in 1865, apparently the final year of the Civil War, which matters because the kids who grew up in those years after the Civil War were all very gung-ho and excited about veteran stories of glorious deeds, amazing conflicts, etc.
And,
so they got
heroic use of X-rays or something?
Yes. Victims of science is also very common in the Civil War. No, but he was very excited about this sort of stuff. So he went, I'm going to go and do some national service. So he joined the Navy when he was 17. Yeah, he joined the Navy at 17, stayed in for 6 years. So he felt very patriotic and, live your life to the fullest. Although I don't know what the Navy in America in the late to middle of 1800s would have been like. Probably gross. Anyway, he finished that and he started working at Edison Lamp Works, as in Thomas Edison, who was very much alive and running them in New Jersey. And he was really big on incandescent lamps. Edison was really into this stuff. Cool. He, contrary to popular belief, didn't invent these things, but he was kind of like the Japanese in the 80s. He was very good at taking other ideas and making them excellent.
Yeah, it's not a bad place to be.
No, it's not bad. It's just funny when you look at the history of Edison and how angry people get about him. He's not a legend. Fuck you, because he stole shit and blah, blah. It's like he's just a capitalist.
Is this the whole Tesla versus Edison? People angry on picking sides?
All of that, and that's just scratching the surface. And I mean, it's just wild. But that's a whole nother tale, or five. Mm. So anyway, he started working at Edison Labs because of these incandescent bulbs. Because his three brothers and his father were really good at glass blowing. Basically, really good at glass blowing.
Sure, yeah.
So they knew how to make shit. And we don't realize today how important glass blowing was in the early days of electronics and so forth. And then around 1890, he was about 24 and he got transferred to Edison's labs in West Orange, which sounds amazing, honestly.
The labs? Or
the labs.
The town of West Orange. No, I'm sure it'd be awesome. A company
it's insane.
A science-oriented company that's like, let's get more inventions, let's do stuff.
Mm. And also, it was like a campus. Like apparently, it's been described as a sprawling complex of laboratories and factories in New Jersey. Again, the people who worked there were referred to often as Edison's muckers.
Oh, okay, because they're mucking in.
Yeah, you'd think it'd be a lot more jolly and gung ho, but it's more because apparently it comes from a time when Edison was involved in milling of ore, like iron ore, etc.
Yeah.
In the early 1890s, and he was experimenting on bricks that would not absorb moisture if they were exposed to snow or rain. So when they were shipped,
he
didn't want it to basically fuck up. The bricks needed to be porous in order to reduce furnace gases. There's all kinds of things. Staff got right into it, but in the end, they were testing everything, and basically they were looking at binding agents, which they called muck.
Oh, okay.
And he started to refer to his researchers and all these people as muckers.
Oh, that's nice. It sounds like a term of endearment.
I think so too. And eventually, the people at this base in West Orange became what is it? A fraternal organization, the Muckers of the Edison Lab.
That's awesome. No, that's cool.
In the West Orange complex, apparently it could produce anything from a locomotive engine to a lady's wristwatch. And when the machines weren't running, his muckers could potentially watch a dance performance by Native Americans from Buffalo Bill's Wild West show.
Okay. So and then on so they watch a dance performance, then they make the innovations catalog.
Absolutely, yeah, pretty much, and maybe in between. And they could do this in Edison's Black Maria movie studio. I don't know anything about it. That's what it's called, Black Maria. Or they could hear classical musicians recording on Edison's wax cylinder phonographs.
That's cool.
So all this shit was going on.
So they're producing this stuff as well and researching it. That's awesome.
Yeah, sounds really quite well. But I do like this quote. The muckers, quote, happily toiled through 90-hour work weeks drawn by the allure of the future.
All right, maybe not. Like, let people not work 90-hour work weeks. I mean, if they're happy, that's okay, but...
It's implied they wanted to, but that's just kind of like saying slaves really wanted to work too because they took pride in their cotton growing. I'm like,
no, it's not quite the same, but it's on the spectrum.
Yeah, it's true. I think it's closer to the slave end than the way you and I work, for example.
Indeed. Look, I think don't make people work too much.
Yeah, I do wonder. Much like Henry Ford, my God, if you want to talk about.
Oh, I'm sure. These early capitalists, well, not early, but as in early 20th century capitalists, there was a lot of Dickensian stuff back then.
They were very clever, though. Anyway, these guys also, the muckers faced all kinds of perils, exposure to chemicals, acids, electricity, weird lights, dangerous machinery.
And they were really compensated for that and protected, and there was a lot of workplace health and safety.
Look, I don't think it was terrible. I think there was some, depending on whether Edison liked you, I got the impression that...
You started this story by saying someone's going to die, so...
Oh, you don't know. No, yeah, I did.
So look, I know that there were a lot of industrial accidents in this era, all over the place.
They're called progress mishaps.
Progress, yes. Just steps on the road to progress. Yeah.
Exactly. I don't know why everyone's crying right now. So Clarence and his brother Chuck, or Charles actually, became apparently two of Mr. Edison's most dependable assistants. So they were in favor with old Tommy. And when Edison first heard about Röntgen's X-rays, they were fully locked and loaded. They're like, fuck yeah, let's do this. So they started developing X-ray focus tubes, blowing the glasses and doing the things and making it better. So Edison was, of course, originally known for his incandescent lamps, but now he was really enthralled by the electrical interactions that happened in the fluorescent tubes that were needed for X-rays. So Clarence also was captivated, and he apparently, I'm quoting again, took to the work enthusiastically, performing countless tests, holding his hand between the fluoroscope and the X-ray tubes. Yes. Countless is the operative word here.
Yeah, cool.
So shitloads. Clarence was involved. Edison loves the shit. People are excited, in they get. In 1896, Clarence went off to the National Electric Light Association in New York City, where Edison was demonstrating his fluoroscope, which is great. So hundreds of people apparently lined up. They wanted to see the fluorescent screen. They wanted to peer into the scope, and they wanted to see their own bones.
Of course they did. Who wouldn't?
As if you wouldn't too.
I'd love that.
Wouldn't you? Like, you want to look at your own bones? Yes,
check out your bones. I absolutely.
Yeah, it's wildly exciting. And the potential medical benefits were really clear to anyone who's paying attention. Like, it was unambiguous. It wasn't like you had to talk people into it.
No.
And so Clarence was all excited. Edison was excited. They returned to the West Orange campus, and they were refining and testing and carrying on for a number of years. Mm-hmm. Great. Everything's going well, as you'd expect.
Yes.
So by 1900, though, Clarence started to show lesions and degenerative skin conditions on his hands and face.
Lesions or legions?
Oh, lesions. My apologies.
Oh,
lesions.
That's cool. Little centurions.
Tiny, exactly. Little tiny Roman soldiers. So we're talking 4 years later, he started to see some lesions and degenerative skin business on hands and face. His hair soon began to fall out. Then his eyebrows and eyelashes.
Don't need
Soon
that.
from that point forward, he was heavily wrinkled, and his left hand was very swollen and painful. But Clarence was not an idiot. So he worked out a way to prevent further damage to his left hand.
Did he know it was the X-rays?
No.
Okay.
Ambiguous. But he worked out how to prevent further damage to his left hand. He started using his right hand.
Of course.
Because science.
Yeah, this is the pathway to all workplace health and safety fixes. That's what you do. You just ruin
Whenever
the other
I
one
do
as
this
well.
with this hand, it hurts. So I'm going to do it with the other hand.
Yeah, that problem solved.
Because I'm not an idiot.
It's the hand.
Yeah, it's the hand. And at night he would sleep with both his hands in water to alleviate burning sensations, etc.
Oh, that sounds sad.
It doesn't sound great. And as many people at the time assumed, particularly men, if you just a little bit of rest and time away from the tubes, it'll be fine.
It'll fix.
It'll
fix. Yeah.
Don't worry about it. But to be clear, at the moment, he was being exposed, or at least early X-ray machines appear to expose the skin to probably something in the order of 1,500 times the amount a modern X-ray would expose you to.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
So orders of magnitude, not order, but orders. So there's just a little background information, background radiation, if you will. Anyway, that's 1900. 1901, he was asked to go to Buffalo in New York because there was a matter apparently of national importance. And it turned out there was an Edison X-ray machine.
Yeah.
This is Clarence, yep. There was an X-ray machine there. It was on display at the Pan American Expo. And you'd know about that being at Queensland.
Indeed, we had an expo once.
You had one.
Yep.
And they're still talking about it today.
Why would you stop talking about that?
I haven't. Anyway, at the expo, one of Edison's machines was there, but it seemed it had to go from being a display to something functional because the president at the time, William McKinley, was about to give a speech at the exposition when, and I quote again, an anarchist named Leon Czolgosz, this is a great name, Czolgosz.
He's named Leon.
Leon.
He's Leon the anarchist.
So Leon the anarchist darted towards McKinley, had a pistol concealed in a handkerchief, fired twice, and hit McKinley. So they realized that they wanted to know where the bullets were before they started carving the president
okay.
up.
And we've got an X-ray machine just here. Yeah.
But no one knows how to use it. So, hey, Clarence and a mate, can you please come up?
Save your president.
X-ray the president. Yeah, it's great.
And Clarence has got his good hand, so he can X-ray with that hand.
Well, he's got his better hand. At this stage, I'll show you a picture in a moment. You'll love it. So they went to where McKinley was staying. They set up the machine, and while he was having surgery, so they already started surgifying him. And they turned out one of the bullets had only just grazed him, was mixed up in his clothing, no big deal. But the other one was stuck in his guts, basically. Surgeons couldn't find it. But McKinley's doctors said, look, he's too weak to undergo these X-rays, these radiations. So hold off. And so Clarence hung around and waited until McKinley was supposed to improve to guide the surgeons, but McKinley died a week after he got shot. So they never got to test it out on a president, which is disappointing. So he returned to New Jersey.
Okay, not a hero.
A broken man. No,
didn't save the day.
No, didn't save any day. So in 1902, the pain in his hands was becoming intolerable, apparently. So a year later, and they permanently looked like they'd been scalded. Here, if you can see that, is a photo of one of his hands.
Wow, there's some,
It looks like a fucking horror movie.
It really does. It's
look at the decay around his fingernails.
It's Nosferatu.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it? Except no fingernails rather than long ones. It's just, I assume this was like sort of post-mortem or something, but no, that's his actually alive hand. So folks who are listening, if you're not watching, go to the sources that are going to appear on our website at some point about this, and you'll be able to find some delicious photographs. So he had skin grafted from his leg to his left hand several times, but the lesion stayed. Then they started to see evidence of carcinoma appearing on his left arm, and it was amputated just below the shoulder. Basically entirely fucking chopped off.
Okay.
A shoulder's really not much use to you if you only have a shoulder.
Mm.
You can do tricks that make your t-shirt move. That's about it.
I'm sure.
At somewhere around this time too, I'm not quite clear of the order, but somewhere around this time, an oculist, I assume an early eye doctor, said to Edison, your eye's something like a foot out of focus. So you've got problems with your eyes, Thomas.
Okay.
And Edison said he went and saw Clarence and said, I think there's a bit of a danger continually using these tubes, mate. I've been using them a little bit.
Well, what's his evidence here? I mean, just get some glasses. No. That happens over time, that people's eyes get worse.
Exactly.
Like, just put your glasses on. There you go, back in focus.
Yeah, exactly. Stop worrying about it. How do you get rid of radiation? Spectacles.
I'm just saying that he didn't know this was radiation.
Edison was a scientist. Do you understand?
He didn't know. He didn't know.
But Edison, in retrospect, said the only thing that saved my eyesight was that I used very weak tubes, whereas Clarence insisted on using the most powerful ones he could
Oh,
find.
Clarence insisted. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Look, and it may be
It's,
true.
it's like those
I
workers
just
that
don't
insist on working in the unhealthy places.
know.
So yeah,
and for as long as
they
possible.
wanted to do that. They wanted
I'm
to work
still
with
awake.
The
Why the
machine.
fuck would I go home when I could keep toiling in this mercury mine?
Yeah.
For you. 7 months later, Clarence's right hand began to develop very similar problems to his left. So he's had his left arm cut off at the shoulder. So his right hand's playing up. Surgeons removed 4 fingers.
You know what's coming after that, though?
Heaven?
I don't know. But it's going to be more than 4 fingers, I'm thinking. There's more.
Why would you say that? Why would you do this to poor Clarence? I thought we've grown to love him.
You told me he was going to die.
Now you wish him more harm.
You told me he was going to die, and he's just going to die slowly.
Clarence was going to die. This could just be a coincidence. Maybe it's his buddy. Clarence had a wife and 2 sons, and he now could not work anymore. But Edison said, "I'll keep you on the payroll and will take care of you for as long as you're alive."
Oh, that's nice.
And he apparently noted to someone else,
for as long as you're alive.
For as long as you, as long as he lived. And he noted to someone in an interview, the X-ray had affected poisonously my assistant, Mr. Daly. Mr. Daly is Clarence.
Yep.
Affected poisonously. So Clarence's condition continued to deteriorate, and in 1903 they removed his right arm.
I told you. I knew where this was going.
You are prescient.
Yeah, this is death by 4 or 5 cuts.
Fuck, so many cuts. And it would have been horrifying the whole time. At this point now, Edison had stopped all experiments with X-rays because he was an intelligent man.
Yeah, there you go.
As he put it, I stopped experimenting with them when I came near to losing my eyesight. Daly, my assistant, practically lost the use of both his arms.
Did he get his assistants to stop as well? Like he stopped the whole factory doing it, or just Edison doing it?
No, I think they shut down the research. Okay, they just stopped playing with it. In 1903, Edison said, "Don't talk to me about X-rays. I'm afraid of them." And he spoke to a reporter for New York World, and he said, "I'm afraid of radium and polonium too, and I don't want to monkey with them."
Ooh.
I know, don't monkey with them. It's strong language, young man. He then goes on to say, "In the hands of experienced operators, they are a valuable adjunct to surgery, locating as they do objects concealed from view, and making, for instance, the operation for appendicitis almost sure," which is a big deal.
I get it. No, totally. We love X-rays. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you think about that, like the operation for appendicitis, we're like, you just go in overnight and you walk out, but not then. He goes on, "But they are dangerous, deadly in the hands of the inexperienced, or even in the hands of a man who is using them continuously for experiment." 1904, Clarence's body was ravaged by metastatic skin cancer, and he died after 8 years of experimenting with radiation. He was 39 years old.
Oh, poor guy. That's awful.
Yeah, it's pretty messed up. So he was, as far as I can tell, the first clear death by X-ray person. But it's okay. Don't feel bad for Clarence, because his tragic example eventually led to a greater understanding of radiology.
It took a whole death though. Like they had ideas beforehand that maybe you should slow down on this.
And what I really enjoyed is I found a bunch of information about him in an article called "C.M. Daly Dies a Martyr to Science."
There you go. Thanks.
In the New York Times.
Martyrs
Martyr to Science. And then
you know what? Science doesn't need martyrs. It really doesn't. Really doesn't. No, I get that some religions might be keen on having martyrs because, a death
it's a different thing, isn't it?
It is a different thing, and you give
going out on a limb, science and religion.
Different things. Different. Look at you. But or even political ideologies, they might love a martyr. People die, and they're like, but science doesn't. It doesn't progress by martyrs. There's no.
Well, but it clearly did.
It clearly does, but
shouldn't. I think shouldn't is the word you're looking for.
It didn't have to in this case.
No, I don't think it did. And also, I love this. I was rummaging around looking for other information about him. The American Journal of Radiology in 1995 published a short biography of him, and it's called "American Martyrs to Radiology." 1995, not 1904. I think using the word martyr is really, I'm going to go with misguided.
Yeah.
I don't think scientists know what the word martyr means in this instance. But what about the famous guys? So this is what happened to Clarence, right? 39 years old, slow, lingering, fucking horrible death. Quite clearly, he suffered. Imagine getting to the point where both your arms have been removed and you feel unwell. I mean, you don't have any arms. You're not going to the bathroom on your own.
Probably not.
you can't eat. Oh, I mean, I suppose you can bang your
Look,
face
indeed,
into a
indeed.
bowl of dog food, but I mean, like, you're not eating.
Indeed. Look, it sounds horrific.
It's unbelievable. So the famous guy, so Röntgen, what happened to him? He got the first Nobel Prize in physics in 1901.
Oh, there you go. Well, he did discover something,
Yeah.
and he discovered something
Really
very useful.
He did. It's just interesting to do the comparison. I'm just going to go, class war. He in 2004, they named element number 111, number 111, Röntgenium. So he got an element named after him. I mean, he was dead, but still. And he died at 77.
Okay.
From carcinoma of the intestine, also known as colorectal cancer.
So is it thought that carcinoma was related, or?
No suggestion of that. I didn't delve too deeply into the life of Röntgen because it just seemed obvious. I like to be subtle.
Fine. It's fine.
But so Röntgen went on and did well. He made it to 77 Nobel Prizes, etc. Like I say, the first Nobel Prize in physics. Edison died at 84. Complications from diabetes. So that could mean anything. He had at the time well over 1,000 patents across a number of countries.
Look, I get it. I mean, aside from where you stand on that invention, he clearly did a lot of awesome.
Oh, heaps of stuff. I mean, he was a founder of what became General Electric. He was certainly not poor. There are museums, place names, statues, awards, institutions. I was hearing on a different podcast as I was driving home today. Oh, the Edison blah, blah for something or other. And I thought, what are the odds? And then I realized the odds of something being named after Edison in the US, not low.
Yeah, fair enough.
So these guys did very well. And I'm not saying they were bastards. I didn't get the impression Edison meant to abuse these people. I could be wrong, but I didn't get that impression. So my takeaway messages are basically, don't be a mucker and never be an early adopter, ever.
No, that's not a good message. Oh.
Never be an early adopter. Always have a will around to do it first.
Seriously, it's fair enough. Don't be an early adopter. My message is not don't be an early adopter. It's as soon as there is information about ways to protect yourself, you use that information.
And test it on someone else first.
No, just
then
put on your lead mask and your lead underpants. And your lead spray whenever you leave the house, and keep 1.5 meters of lead away from each other.
That's true. One and a half lead meters. Anyway, there you go. So that's one of the unsung heroes of X-rays. It just sounds it's intriguing to read. I've got to say, reading about these people and what they do, etc.
I do like the idea of the muckers. I want to learn more about the muckers. Tell me more about muckers next time.
It will come. Don't you worry.
The Wholesome Show is me, Will Grant, and him, Rod Lamberts. It's brought to you by the Australian National Centre for the Public Awareness of Science.
And Seeing Through Skin.